Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk about all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we review the Bumblebee Prequel comic, Issue 2. Chris Ryall rejoins IDW, and G1 Jetfire joins Forge to Fight. Today is Friday, December 21st, 2018, and this is episode 108 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that's checked its list twice and has been found wanting. Of new Transformers comics, I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team, Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
Hey, how's it going? Let's talk Transformers.
And again, we are missing a couple of co-hosts, so we brought back Aaron from WTF at TFW.
Howdy. Again, even though it was like 5 minutes ago. That's
No,
the magic of podcasting.
Don't ruin the magic.
Yeah, but maybe they end up listening to these back to back.
Oh, but they should know it's been 2 days. It's always has to be.
Yeah, but it's like the holiday times and everybody's busy and traveling, and like I've got this friggin' 8-hour flight coming up to go see my family. And then they just listen to them back to back because they knew how good it would be.
It's ruined. You ruined it all. Podcast is over. Shutting it down.
Oh, is that all it takes to take out the competition? Okay, all right.
Competition. We work together.
We compete for $0 for everyone who downloads these podcasts.
Is that a segue into you again asking for money?
Yes, it is. So we're not asking for money. We're thanking all the people who already give us money. So thank you to all our Donatrions who continue to give us money on PayPal and Patreon. We don't have any new folks this week, but we do want to remind all the folks who do give us money that we really appreciate them and we thank them for their contribution. And if you would like to join those hallowed ranks, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support and find out how to donate there. Also, this is the last day to enter our Best of 2018 survey, so this helps us figure out what the fandom thinks are the best Transformers toys and comics for 2018. We've had the survey going for about 2 weeks, and we're closing it out today so that we can have some time to tally up the results and talk about it on a future show. So if you're listening and it's still Friday, December 21st, you still have time to get your entry in. If not, it's too late. Sorry. Send us some feedback with your picks for the best of 2018, and we might read them on the show. It's really close to Christmas now, but if you still are looking for some, a nice novelty T-shirt to give to your significant other or friend or family, go to transmissionspodcast.com/shop, and you can go to our TeePublic store and buy some of our shirts, or just buy any TeePublic shirt, and they'll give us a kickback. Not a G1 kickback, though. All right.
What would that barter system be? There's just like limited number of kickbacks, and they like ship you 8 of them.
I'd be okay with that. If they were all G1 kickbacks, not reissues. Anyway, let's talk about some comics news. All right. So first up, we've got some design work from Philip Murphy, who is working on the art for the Star Trek vs. Transformers series. And he put out a couple of sketches for his design of Fortress Tiberius. So this is the redesign of Fortress Maximus with an alternate mode of the Starship Enterprise. This was a cool design, so Philip Murphy tweeted this on his Twitter. Although, didn't Jack Lawrence do the art for the last issue of Star Trek vs. Transformers #3? So it's cool that I guess Philip Murphy designed this, but the first time we actually saw it on the page, it was Jack Lawrence's art that brought it to life. So
this tells you how far I am behind in some comics. This actually is a real thing.
This is a real thing.
Yes.
Yeah, this was last week's Star Trek vs. Transformers #3. This came out. Sounds like you're not a fan.
It completely works in the book.
Okay.
Completely. No, it doesn't. But okay.
Like the nacelles are like make them vertical or condensed down, and man, I'm a longtime Trekkie as well, so this should be interesting crossover. It's like a weird Uncanny Valley style thing. Like no, do not want.
Fair enough. It's. I mean, we've been reviewing the comics, and it's kind of a boilerplate by the numbers crossover, so it's not really breaking a lot of new ground there. But there are some interesting bits in there. Go back and listen to our reviews if you're curious.
Yeah, I skip over them when I don't have the comics, and I'm like I've said before, I'm kind of behind on getting to the comic shop since they're a trip across town. And it's a whole lot harder to do that, like, after a day of work than the one that used to be they used to be directly on the way home from work.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently I have to go read some comics and make sure I have a airsick bag right next to me.
All right. Well, hopefully this won't make you vomit, because we've got news that Chris Ryall, who we thought was done with IDW, they pulled him back in. He is now the president, publisher, and chief creative officer of IDW. So just 6 months after he left IDW, he is now in charge of the place.
I was going to say he was gone for like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yes.
She stepped outside to get some coffee. What?
And got promoted.
Yeah.
So, so John Barber has taken his position as editor-in-chief, but now Chris Ryall is his boss again. Running IDW. So that's cool. We interviewed Chris Ryall, I think last year, to talk about the that was when Unicron had just been announced last fall. And yeah, he's been a longtime champion of Transformers comics, so it's nice to see that he's back at IDW. I do think there's got to be a more interesting behind the scenes story there as to why it was such an abrupt departure and then return, but maybe that'll come out at some point in the future.
I said he went to go get coffee at
Yeah, six months usually is a standard time frame that they put in like legal documents for time to pass before someone can return.
Mm-hmm.
So
I know
something happened.
Some places have like do not compete or sharing things. I know that in a previous workplace they tried to like cement something like that. Like if you quit, you can't go work for somebody else in the field within a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
The way that this is like going back to the company, I wonder if this was the plan all along, as it were. If it was something of becoming like president of the company, it has to like, it would all depend on how all of that legalese is written, but it could be something like, the classic, we have to open this position up to everybody, but we knew already who we wanted, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did.
Maybe they wanted to hire from outside of the company, and he needed to be outside of the company to be able to apply.
Maybe it could all depend, not knowing the way that a creative's comic company that heavily licensed is built versus the way an engineering company is built. I could say from the engineering company side of how I've seen offices work like that's potential. Like they wanted to have some sort of open, ability for anybody to come. Cause like maybe they could have also been looking, maybe try to get somebody from Marvel or DC because I guess IDW is working their way up into the big boy leagues. But if it's something along those lines where like they wanted the ability to, and Chris maybe threw his hat in as well, and they're like, yeah, he's a better fit to steer the ship, so why not?
And he was at Skybound Entertainment with Robert Kirkman's company for a while, so
that does make me wonder whether he burned bridges leaving there, or whether it was completely orchestrated that he said, look, I'm going to be going back to IDW. hopefully in 6 months, I just need some place to crash for 6 months. Can I, be here?
Or it could have been the opposite way, that like maybe at Skybound it wasn't a great fit, Again, with creative stuff, I could see like, oh no, he's of the East Coast work style, whatever, and they're of the West Coast or whatever design ideas or styles.
Making an East Coast West Coast reference in comic books.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the beefs that go on in the halls of comic bookery, but I could see anything along those lines being he wanted to go try something different, and it turns out that something different, wasn't for him or his family or whatever, and looked at IDW and said, like, guys, can you take me back? Sorry it took so long to get that coffee. It's not like Dad go to the corner for cigarettes, I swear.
I did see him at Fan Expo this year, and he was traveling with John Byrne to the different conventions. Now, I don't know whether that was something that was orchestrated with Skybound, but he was definitely just kind of traveling the conventions with John and having a blast. He loved it. It was, and so I got to talk to him a bunch there.
Well, I did want to mention so our friend of the show, Tom B. Long, author of the Comic Book Nobody webcomic, also a Donatron on the Transmissions podcast. He has a comic strip that you might say is a art imitating life of Chris Ryall's return. So I thought that was funny. Mm-hmm. All right. Next little bit of news. So this is again Lost Light. James Roberts' magnum opus is getting critical acclaim again. It was nominated for IGN's Comic Book Series of the Year this year. So this this is following the tradition of the last few years where More Than Meets the Eye and Lost Light have been nominated for lots of awards for in end of the year comic books list, being best sci-fi comic in past years. I think James Roberts got a best writing award at some point. So yeah, so there's links from the TFW article, so you can vote if you want to vote and support Lost Light there. And it's always nice to see Transformers comics get wider recognition. Wish that translated to sales for the comics so that we could keep them going strong, but I guess you'll take what you can get. All right, so let's get into our comic review for this week. And this week we are reviewing Bumblebee, the Bumblebee Movie Prequel, issue number 2, The Living Headlights. Written by John Barber, art by Andrew Griffith, colors by Priscilla Tramontano, letters by Tom B. Long, editor David Marriott, and publisher Greg Goldstein, because this was published before Chris Ryall took over. We've had a lot of comics come out in the last few months, so it's been a while since we reviewed the first issue of this. We reviewed the first issue way back in July, but we didn't get around to getting back to the prequel comics until just before the movie comes out, because the movie's out today. But we'll try and do this one a little justice. So we've got 3 covers for Bumblebee issue 2. The first one has Agent Diana Lux in a big profile, with Bumblebee in car mode, and I guess David Reeve at the bottom there. That's cover art by Andrew Griffith and colors by Priscilla Tramontano. We've got cover B is kind of an action shot by Fico Asio, also featuring Diana Lux right front and center there. And then Bumblebee and Diabla in both robot mode and car mode in the frame. And then the retailer incentive cover is just the line art of cover A by Andrew Griffith. So Aaron, which cover would you pick as your favorite one out of these 3?
Of course, I've closed the link with the covers in them. I like the cover A, the like very Bond movie-ish poster looking cover. Like there's story and intrigue happening in that one.
And you like the colors and not the black and white?
I think so. The colors give it more depth than the black and white does.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for a line art style face, kind of seems flatter than with color there giving shade and depth.
Mm-hmm. All right, Daryl, which cover are you picking?
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think cover A is probably the better of the three. Yeah, I think it's the big headshot of Lux there. Even the colored version is, I do believe, is better. Like Aaron said, it's just another dimension to the cover.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll make it a clean sweep and also pick cover A. I think that's a better kind of themed representation of what's going on in the comic. And yeah, I like that art style better than Fico Asio's art too. All right, so let's get into the story. We continue the adventures of super spy Bumblebee in 1964 London with his human sidekicks David Reeve, aka Agent Omega Zero, and Agent Diana Lux. They have discovered that Decepticons are working with the Soviets to ratchet up tensions in the Cold War. Reeve has just made contact with his superiors in the Bureau of Agents, Security, Espionage, Sanctions, Tactics, and Intervention Options Nationwide, or Base Station, and been told that he, Bumblebee, and Lux have been disavowed since they believe they've been infiltrated by a mole after the murder of director Pelham last issue. They order Reeve to find the mole, which could only be himself, Bumblebee, or Lux, and neutralize him or her. As he's receiving these orders in the phone booth, Diana Lux activates her radio scanner to listen in to Reeve's conversation. Bumblebee asks why she's doing that. She doesn't trust Reeve? Lux responds that she doesn't trust anyone, especially after Director Pelham's murder, and getting their cover blown. She and Bumblebee overhear Reeve's orders and realize he means to betray them. But as Reeve exits the phone booth and draws his gun, they speed off before he gets a chance to shoot the Decepticons coming up behind them to ambush them. Reeve wasn't going to betray them. He was trying to protect them from Diabla and Runabout. As Bumblebee drives off, Reeve manages to grab on the back of the hood and hold on for dear life as the Decepticons pursue them. From on top of Bumblebee's hood, Reeve tries to explain to Bee and Lux that he wasn't going to kill them, he was aiming for the cons. Bumblebee's driving is too much for Reeve, and he's thrown from the hood as Bee continues to avoid civilian cars while the Decepticons close in. Lux grabs Reeve's hand to keep him from crashing and burning as Bumblebee transforms to robot mode, dumps the humans on the ground safely, and confronts the Decepticons. Bumblebee tries to reason with his former friend Diabla, who he used to work with as an Autobot. But Diabla reminds him that she was always a Decepticon. She was a double agent when she was working with him, and she was never his friend. Meanwhile, Reeve fires his pistol at Runabout using some special rounds just for Cybertronians that pack quite a punch. Runabout is surprised to actually be hurt by a human weapon, but it doesn't slow him down and only makes him madder. Lux grabs Reeve and tells him to keep running because she can get them to a safe house under the Tower of London. While Bee is getting his rear end kicked by Diabla, Lux and Reeve grab an unattended scooter and drive off to make for the safe house. With the humans gone, Runabout and Diabla gang up on Bumblebee to give him a beatdown. Bumblebee isn't thrilled to be left behind, but he makes his escape a different way by jumping into the river. It turns out Lux gave Bumblebee the info on the safe house before things got chaotic. So everyone meets up there to plan their next move. Bee gets there through an entrance in the city sewer system, while Reeve and Lux find a secret passage from above ground. In order to clear their names, the team has to find out who is the spy inside the preemptive resistance operating globally, reacting against malevolent military efforts or program, and they have a lead. Since Bee and Reeve first encountered Decepticons in Berlin when going after Soviet agent Gotel last issue, They start with Gotel's contact, a known Soviet agent, Vladimir Vladek, based right here in London. So how do they get to him? Reeves got a plan. Austin Powers cosplay. Reeve dresses up like a flamboyant fashion photographer, taking pictures of his model, Lux, as she poses in front of their car, Bumblebee, right in front of the dress shop that's a front for Vladek's operation. Unfortunately, the Decepticons are there too. So Reeve gets Bumblebee to cause a distraction as a runaway car, while Reeve and Lux move on Vladek. Outside, Bumblebee confronts Diablo again. After she transforms and throws a car at his head, Bee pleads with her again to try and talk her out of being a Decepticon. Surprisingly, Diablo lets him have a moment to talk. Inside, Reeve and Lux find Vladek's secret chamber and bust their way in. While Reeve takes down Vladek's goons, Lux trains her weapon on Vladek himself. She convinces him that the Decepticons are playing both Eastern and Western powers against each other. The Decepticons murdered Soviet agent Gotel, then framed Reeve, Bee, and Lux for program director Pelham's murder. Clearly, the Cybertronians are trying to incite World War III to destroy the human race. Vladek is convinced and vows to take this information back to his handlers. Vladek and his driver get their car and get ready to make their escape. But as they drive off, something is wrong. It turns out their car wasn't a car. It was the Decepticon Dead End. He transforms to robot mode with Vladek and his guard inside. They die with a sickening squish. As Reeve and Lux watch in horror, Dead End turns his attentions on them. On the rooftop above, Bumblebee sees what's happening below and realizes he's been played. Diablo used his sentimentality against him, distracting him with their conversation while her fellow Decepticons took care of the humans. As missiles fired from another Decepticon close in on Bumblebee, Diablo gloats that it isn't just the Autobots who can wield rhetoric like a sword. To be continued. So that's issue 2 of the Bumblebee prequel series. I gotta say, it's funny to see. I like how John Barber is riffing on the whole, James Bond, movie idea with all these issues. I'm not the biggest James Bond fan, so I guess I don't see it. I'm not probably catching all the references that are in here. But it seems like a fun crossover, although it's in the proud tradition of most comic book crossovers where I think it has little to nothing to do with the movie. So good luck trying to shoehorn this into the movie continuity or backstory. I think it's going to be difficult. The other thing is with the art, I don't know. I think I've seen better work from Andrew Griffith on the art. The art feels a little bit, I guess, I don't know, unfinished. At least on the bots. Like the bots all look a little bit like their line work isn't quite as clean as I'm used to seeing from Andrew Griffith. So that's just something I've noticed. And Bumblebee I like the fact that Bumblebee talks. That's always nice. In the to have the movie character talk whenever you can. Of course, that doesn't line up with the previous movie continuity from 10 years ago, but that's fine.
All the more screaming out that this is a reboot.
Yeah,
even if they don't want to say that word.
Yep. So I think I'm the only one here who's actually already seen the Bumblebee movie, so I won't comment on what if anything this has to do with the movie. But Aaron, let's hear your thoughts on the story so far here.
I really enjoy the cheesy schlock leaning into base station and program, and I think there was one or two in the first comic where it's these way too long acronyms. Where it's, completely reverse engineered into, we want to say something silly.
Yeah.
It's amusing and just a fun way to be like, yeah, that's totally like 70s, spy movie type stuff. So, that gets a giggle for sure. I wish that Diablo was not also a yellow car.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where between the art style, the very human faces on both of them, that when I was reading this, that I kind of had to like go back and eye squint of like, okay, okay, that's Bumblebee. All right. And because it has the little tiny nubs, not the forehead horn. Okay. And it go back and forth that way. I wish like a different primary color if you're going to keep it with primary colors, Granted, right. You've got Dead End at the end and red, but since like Diablo is something that you came up with, make her like safety orange. That way you can still have like orange and Bumblebee yellowish or yellow orange-ish, and have her like safety orange or something that pushes that like fruit orange, a little bit further if you still want to keep it there. But between shading, sometimes it was very close. That's personal stuff more so than about the book, I think. I think it was like in the surveillance scene. It was definitely a case where the two of them being very similar colors was not the clearest.
Cool. All right, Daryl, what did you think?
I'm enjoying the spy aspect of it. There was a couple moments where the art kind of wasn't great. So the one time where they had just gotten into the new hideout, and I think it's the bottom panel with the other guy, the agent, not Lux, but the guy, whatever his name is. Reeve, right. For whatever reason, it looks like you can actually see like other lines, like an alternate drawing of where his head was going to be on the page. And it looks like the whole bottom half of that page just looks like there's like other art ideas mixed in here, So it's kind of messy. So I agree that, Andrew's stuff is better than this, and it leans towards a bit of a rush job on this one. I didn't mind the Austin Powers reference to the photo, the photographer thing. That was kind of funny. The part that kind of like was new was the Decepticon transforming with the two guys inside. I was kind of taken aback that they actually did that, but then you don't see any liquids pouring out of Dead End.
He's just keeping that for himself,
I guess. You'd expect that would be very unhealthy for a Cybertronian to have all of that squishiness going on inside of your robotic components on the inside. I can't imagine that meshes well.
He's got a little catalytic converter that just compresses it all and turns it into fuel.
Filters it out.
Look, I remember the G1 cartoon. You can turn anything into Energon if you try hard enough.
That's true. But all in all, I thought it was a decent book. It's not super exciting. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of excitement, like the fighting and spy stuff going on. But other than that, it's a decent book. But yeah, nothing that I would have like. I wouldn't say I'd highly recommend this for people. It's just it's a kind of a fun read. I'm wanting to get this book kind of done and finish off the series before I see the movie, just to kind of see if there's any references in the movie to it. So yeah, that's my point.
Spoiler: there isn't.
Ah. Okay.
No, I mean I think that never happens with. I mean, if you go back to like the movie, the IDW comics from the previous movies, The comics always work around the movies, but the movies never reference the comics.
Yeah, but those comics came out after the movies.
Okay, that's true.
So anyway, it's a fine book. It's just I'm hoping for the last two issues to be, a little bit more exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do like the new, I guess, the new character of Diablo or Diablo, however you want to. Although it's funny that like her name didn't raise any red flags. Like your name's Spanish for devil, right? I mean, you didn't think she might be a bad guy when she joined us. She said, "Hey, I want to join the Autobots."
Yeah, but it's just one of those like. Eventually, every language ends up having a profanity in some other language that's a normal word. What do we know? Do we know what Diabla is in Cybertronian? Nah. It's like Greg.
All right, so that's the Bumblebee prequel. Maybe we'll try and finish up this series in the next few weeks. I mean, we've got a lot of open spaces since not any new Transformers comics are coming out in the next few months. So. Try and get this knocked out. All right, let's move on to some Transformers media news.
All right, in media news this week, we're going to start off with some Forge to Fight stuff. So G1 Jetfire is joining the fray. And if you're still playing that game, look for some Jetfire action. In Cyberverse news... We've got episode 15 is available on Hasbro's YouTube channel, so take a look at that. It's called King of Dinosaurs. Remember, it is region locked, so if you're anywhere outside of America, you probably can't watch it. And we've got Bumblebee is the little Transformer that could. This is an article in the Escapist magazine. It's about the history of Bumblebee from G1 to his solo movie debut. And it's by our very own Robbie Warnock, a listener and duly appointed supporter of Transmissions. So take a look at that. Charles, you read it, right?
Yes, I did. It was a very nice article. Robbie, of course, he's one of us, so he knows the whole history of Transformers and Bumblebee. And it's a nice little article, a nice little primer to go watch the movie.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Good job, Robbie.
Well done, Robbie. I'm going to sit down and watch this, or read this. I haven't actually read it yet.
Didn't ask if I'd read it, but whatever.
Oh, have you read it, Aaron?
Yeah, because it was in your link, and I tried to be a good guest host.
Wow. Did his homework. What did you think of the article?
It's a good write-up. Nice... good amount of grognard information distilled into a way that non-Transformer nerds would be able to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to talk to them, not over them, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, good job, Robbie. That was well done. In Bumblebee movie news, oh boy, here we go. The movie's coming out very soon, as far as this recording goes.
It's out today.
Today it's happening. We've got lots of links. One thing I did want to touch on is that director Travis Knight has mentioned something about being done with Transformers now. I don't know whether you guys have seen this.
That's actually inaccurate reporting.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
So
okay.
So he did I guess it was in Italy. He did an interview with an Italian magazine, and they asked him specifically about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, because there was rumors that he was being tapped to direct that, and he just said that he wasn't going to direct that, and his next project was going to be going back to his studio, his animation studio. That's the next thing he's working on. But he didn't say anything about what he was like the next Transformers movie. He just said the next thing he's doing is going back to his animation studio, which makes sense because that's where he came from. So, So I don't think he's done with Transformers. I mean, the movie's not even out yet. So, I mean, I'm sure if the movie does really well and it gets a really good response and he gets the opportunity to do another one, why wouldn't he? I mean, we have another story about him wanting to do a movie fully set on Cybertron. So
that's true, and I was just about to touch on that as well. But yeah. The I mean, we saw them get Michael Bay back 2 more times after he said he was going to be done with Dump Trucks of Money. So Dump Trucks of Money work very well in retaining directors. So if this works, then I'd like to see him back. But yet I've not seen it. We do have this story, you just touched on it, about Travis Knight wanting to do or hoping to see a full set on Cybertron movie. That's very cool. A very teasable idea for us Transformers fans. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it. Aaron, you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil anything for ourselves. But you think it would work, Charles?
I think it would. Yeah. I mean, given what I saw in this movie, if you could have a whole movie like that, I mean, I put out after I saw the movie last week, I put out a tweet with a gif of Barney getting the duff hooked right to his veins, and I said, "This is me after seeing the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee." So yeah, I mean, I would be on board for that. Everything looked great in those scenes. I mean, I think I will probably try and see it again this weekend to hopefully boost the opening weekend numbers of Bumblebee and just get a look at those scenes again.
Cool. Aaron, would you be up for something like that?
I think so. I think that we were talking about Spider-Verse earlier,
right?
And seeing granted, that's a different animation and it was comic books, but I could see, with especially developments in mocap, you could still have an actor acting it. I mean, Avatar. How much of Avatar was actually real characters versus CG. So I could definitely see a movie working very well purely based on Cybertron, and not just. I think that there is enough. Transformers has been in the films or in the theaters enough now that I think that is something that would be very very doable. That even were we to have the movie CGI technology of now, a decade ago, it still would have been a bit like, okay, it's a weird CGI movie where there's absolutely no human relation to it, versus I think now there's enough, not necessarily institutional knowledge, but enough just general knowledge of what Transformers are that you maybe wouldn't have to explain it nearly as much and why it's a thing nearly as much, and be able to just do it.
Okay.
So I think it's something that I would enjoy seeing if they had the right people doing it. And then also, I think that culture could get on board with my long roundabout description.
All right. And we do have a bunch of other topics or links to articles and stuff like that in here. So if you want to check it out, check the show notes. A few cast interviews and some posters and whatnot, all kinds of other crazy crap about it. But that's it for media news this week, Charles.
All right, and we will finish up the show with some convention news. All right, so we've got more TFCon G1 reunion guest announcements. So this is for TFCon Los Angeles, taking place March 15th to 17th, 2019, in Los Angeles, California. And we've got 3 new guests have been announced in the last week or so. So first up is Melody Britt. And I think she's best known as the voice of She-Ra on Masters of the Universe. But she also did a couple of characters in the Transformers cartoon. So she's Alana from I don't even remember what episode that was, but
wasn't it the sea spray one?
Maybe, yeah. The one where Sea Spray turned into a fish person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there you go. But She-Ra, she's She-Ra. I think if you're going to talk to her, you're talking to her about She-Ra, which is a convenient tie-in since the Netflix show has been out for a little while. Also, a more Transformers-related voice actor is Jack Angel, who was the voice of many characters, including Astro Train, Breakdown, Cyclonus, Omega Supreme, Ramjet, Smokescreen, and Ultra Magnus. So I think Ultra Magnus is probably the one you might remember most. Not the movie Ultra Magnus, the TV show, Season 3 Ultra Magnus. But all those characters are... so he's got lots of G1 work. And the last announcement that we have is good old Dan Gilvezan, voice of G1 Bumblebee. So he'll be there too. He's been at several TF cons, so it's nice to have him back. And I think he lives in LA, so it's probably pretty easy for him to pop in to TF con this time.
That's probably why the show's going to be in LA. That's why they keep calling it the G1 reunion.
No, that's just conspiracy theory talk. But yeah, so I mean, of course, Dan's a great guy. I've met him several times at TFCon. We had him on the show once, so he's a good guy to talk to, and he's a fun guest. So, Aaron, do you think you're going to make it out to this TFCon next year?
At this point, I hope so. I've booked airfare for myself, and Alfie's taking an additional trip to go see family just before it. It was a weird three-legged airfare to get figured out, and hotels are booked, and I put in for time at work, so I really hope I make it. If I don't, stuff has gone sideways and bad.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, at least I think for the rest of us, it's going to be a little bit hard for us. I know Yoshi is going to be there, so say hi to Yoshi while you're out there. But I know Daryl and Jeremy are 100% out, and I am about 80% out at this point. So I'm not saying no at this point, but
what's the limiting factor, you slackers? What, money, time? That's what credit cards are for.
No, yes. Just those two, money and time. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. That's it.
Yeah, no, and the rough thing is, and I've talked. I think we've talked about it on our show, but I've talked about it with a couple other people that aren't able to make it. It was a really quick turnaround between like when they announced it and when it was going to be. That I mean, people generally save up for over a year or right about a year to make a show like this, and it was a quick turnaround, and I want to say somebody like quasi-officially said like, yeah, we know it was a quick turnaround, but like to do the G1 reunion that this is theming up to be very much so, like it had to be either super early or not at all. So like to have so much of, you know, the G1, so many of the G1 actors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 announced guests just on their guests page. And, hey, it's going to be in LA, and you know who ends up at every LA convention. Like, I think that they have a whole lot more on board still. So for what they're aiming for, it's kind of where it needs to be, and from my understanding, when it needs to be. So not being able to get there is understandable.
Yep. All right. Well, also, I just do want to quickly mention that one thing that's in the fine print here is that Melody Britt is only there for Sunday, so just be aware of that. The other guests, Jack Angel is going to be there all weekend, and Dan Gilvezan is going to be there both Saturday and Sunday. So just be aware that because we've mentioned that some of the other guest announcements are only for a particular day. So just take note of that as you're planning your autograph sessions when you get out there. All right. Well, that will do it for this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thank you to our guest, Aaron, for joining us. And Aaron,
you're welcome.
Yeah, you get another chance to pimp your ride or pimp your stuff.
Yeah. So, I'm on the good episodes of WTF at TFW. It's TFW 2005's official podcast. If you're listening to this, you should probably listen to that. You can find me anywhere across the internet as AKSMTH. If you want to, I guess I can still for another 15 days or so as we record it, but more like probably 10 or so from the time that this airs, make donations to my Extra Life campaign. You can find me at extralife.com. Search for player Aaron Smith of Andy Rue's Gaming Gang. Make donations to help out Riley Hospital for Children, or if it's after the new year and you're listening to this, I'll probably have a new one of those up for it. But yeah, that's the long and short of me on the internet, man. You can go find me yammer on about robot junk anywhere.
Cool. And I just realized, so your dog runs the gaming gang.
So the story with Andy Rue, he's passed now. Cancer sucks. Was I'd been on a friend's team in a previous year, and there was a little bit so for there was a difference of opinion on stuff when it comes to things like this, fundraising for charity stuff. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm tattooed because of this now. I've shaved my head. I've shaved my goatee. I wore a Speedo for an hour because somebody donated $750. I'll do that stuff because it's for the kids, you know. Mm-hmm. And I had joked on that team, hey, if I make, I think at the time it was like $200, I'll live stream the whole thing. And then I made $200, and I joked, hey, I guess I'll have to wear pants the whole time. And then somebody said, what if you don't wear pants? I was like, well, that's $300. And they donated $100. It's like, okay, I'm not going to wear pants. I was going to wear shorts. Ha, it's a joke. And somebody on that team was very much like, oh no, you can't do that. That's improper. It's like, joking about not wearing pants just raised $100. Like, I think that's cool. I think they'll understand if I wear shorts. And the person that donated would get a kick out of me, like, worming my way around the air quotes rules that way, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I just decided, screw it. I'll make my own team. Blackjack and hookers. And was sitting there, and my dog was Andy Rue, or Andy, and I was like, hey, bud, what do we name the team? Because I'm crap for coming up with names of things. And he just looked up at me and went, roar. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll name it after you. You don't got to be so pushy. And there it is. And it's been that same team for 6 years now. I've done this now 7 years, raised at least $1,000 every year, and I'm always grateful to every donation, from the people that apologize because they can only donate $1 or $2, up to the people that donate way too much money for other reasons. So if that's the thing you're interested in, find me online and ask how to donate, and I'll point you at either mine, or now that it's towards the end of the year, if you ask me, I might funnel you towards other people so that they can hit some of those goal lines. Because $1,000 gets a gold medal, but $500 gets a silver medal. I think I've got one person that, if everybody kind of pushed it once, might make that. But it's a thing I enjoy, and I've gotten the chance to go to Riley Hospital for Children once and talk to some of those kids, and ain't nobody got a hard life in comparison to some of these kids that are like 10 and fighting like nasty cancer and stuff. And they're just like, yeah, it's my life, and this is what we do. And I'm just like, dude, I would be in a fetal ball just day in and day out, and you're just soldiering on. Like, it makes me proud to help those guys out. So it's a thing. I'm No, I'm not crying. You're crying. Shut up.
That's very cool. Yeah, so definitely we'll put some links in the show notes as well, so everyone can hopefully find that more easily and donate. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Later.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Transmissions. But just because this episode is over doesn't mean the Transformers fun has to stop. Join us and other Transformers fans on our Discord chat server by visiting transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. If you would like to learn more about how you could support the Transmissions Podcast, just visit transmissionspodcast.com/support. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Charles likes to yell recording in your ear.
Yeah. Chris does too when we've already been going for a while. It's like, yeah, we know. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Why do you count in every time, Chris? And mine's uploaded. Look at that. I didn't put Aaron on it. Normally I'm better about that. I apologize.
Delete it and upload it again.